So, if you have ever used Excel before, you may have heard about macros. Yeah, they are these things that record your actions and help you automate repetitive tasks. However, for many reasons, we choose not to use them. My reason for not using them was the fear of destroying the workbook, because frankly, I did not understand how macros work. To understand macros, I will be looking at the code behind macros, which is also called VBA. As a result, I have found some very simple VBA codes that will be useful for my daily job. In this video, I will analyze these VBA codes and understand how they work. First, I will explain some VBA codes on managing worksheets. Then I will explain a macro on editing databases and finish off with a useful formatting shortcut. So to begin, the first macro I'm going to be looking at is this one right here. This macro is going to help me return to a homepage worksheet or a specific worksheet, no matter where you're at. And I added the shortcut Control Shift R to return here. For example, if I go to a different worksheet, I will have to click back, and I have a lot of worksheets. It will be difficult for me to go all the way back. With this shortcut, I instantly come back to a specific worksheet page. The second macro that I'll be analyzing is used to unhide all the worksheets in this workbook. This is very useful for when there are many worksheets to unhide, because if you do it manually, one by one, it's going to take you a while. And if there are a lot, it's going to be there for a long time. However, with macros and VBA, we can do it with a click of a button. And just go back to my homepage, Control-Shift-R. I'm going to quickly go over the code. The dim statement is basically declaring a object as something else. And WS has really no meaning in VBA until we give it some meaning. And by doing that, we can use WS as a substitute for worksheet, which simplifies the code writing and actually make it faster for the coder to write their code. And the next statement is a for each statement, which basically states that for each worksheet in this workbook, we want to do something to it. And that means this is an object. And to do something to it, we need an action. And the action is we want the worksheet visibility to be visible. And to close off the for each statement, we need the next statement right here, which is required to close off the for each action statement. The next macro is also very similar to the previous one, but instead of unhiding all the worksheets, we are hiding them instead. This is very useful if you are doing dashboards and you want to quickly hide all the clutter around that tab. For example, I come here and I only want this tab, but none of these other tabs. So I would simply use Control-Shift-A to hide everything except the active tab. And now I just want to go back to my old one, so I'll use the other macro, which is Control-Shift-Q, which helps me open and unhide my tabs. Going back to my homepage, Control-Shift-R. Very fun to do. Now, the code. Code is also very similar. And instead of making the worksheets visible, this time we have a criteria, an if function. So it would hide the worksheets if the name of the worksheet is not equal. This symbol means not equal to the active sheet name or the sheet's name we are currently on. If it is not equal, then we hide it. this is exactly what just happened. Shift A. All these tabs, different names, all hidden. Now just bring it back. Shift Q. Okay, so my next macro is on unhiding all the rows and columns in a worksheet, which is very important if you want to make sure that nothing in your worksheet is hidden. And the code for this is actually really clean. It is saying that for columns, the entire column, the function of hidden will be false. That means this is not going to be hidden. Same thing for rows. It will not be hidden. That means it's visible. This unhide macro is going to be very useful for when I'll be editing databases that uses data forms. And data forms actually require that there is no hidden cells, or the data form is not gonna pick up the tab where you want to enter the data. So, by unhiding the rows and columns, we can start using the data forms correctly. And the assigned shortcut to this macro is Ctrl-Shift-U. Now, these columns are open, and we can start using data form correctly. See, now there are so much more tabs that we weren't able to touch before. And in data forms, we can actually change the previous ones. For example, change the name, Chili123, and it would happen. Also, in data forms, we don't have to worry about mistakenly entering data into a formula tab because we can't. For example, in this formula, it just adds the investor type with a number to get an investor code. And if we create a new one, for example, number 10, GP, we can't actually enter, but it will still work. Now, there is a shortcut to open data forms, and it requires you to select the entire database table, which is Ctrl-A, and you do Alt-D-O. However, many people don't know that data forms, exist. I didn't even know until I started doing this research project. I found this tool to be really cool, and I will continue to use it at work. So, the last macro that I want to talk about is for toggling highlights. And I found this to be extremely useful. And to show you, I could just highlight some cells, Ctrl-Q, and it's highlighted. And this unhighlighted, I could do the same thing again, Ctrl-Q. This is so much easier than going to the home ribbon and highlighting it just for a minute, and then when you want to unhighlight it, you go back to ribbon and press no fill. With Ctrl-Q, you save so much more time. And the code is actually quite simple. It starts with a with function, which means that you don't have to actually name the object you're working with, and just by selecting it, you are creating the object instantly. And this works with an if function so that the toggle would work. The if function states that if the cell that I selected is already yellow, then we remove the yellow and make it none, no fill. But if it is not yellow, then we make it yellow. With this last shortcut, I have finished analyzing some of the VBA codes that are good for managing your worksheets, good to make sure that everything is not hidden, great for entering new data and awesome for making formatting changes just by having a toggle. I hope I made most of these macros more understandable and explained why they behave the way they do, and hope that, just like me, you will be more confident in using VBA and macros in the future. Thanks.